You guys all so much for coming. My name is Dan Helfers. I am a former Loyola student and friend to Matt and G. So we're so stoked that you guys could come out here on your off day today, which hopefully we'll have like a really great conversation. You guys will learn a ton and ask some questions. So without further ado, G-Eazy and his manager, Matt Bauerschmidt.
Yep. What's up? Check.
All right, I think we're all good. I'm gonna go on my phone. I got some notes on here. I am not texting while we're doing this.
He's just checking Instagram.
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
First and foremost, thank you guys for coming out. Like, today's not school day. It would have taken a lot to get me to go somewhere to school on a day off. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. It always feels good to come back to New Orleans.
And maybe this would be a good opportunity for you guys to just say a little bit, introduce yourselves, and where you came from and how you got here.
Yeah, so I moved out to New Orleans, obviously, for Loyola. Stayed here for an extra couple of years, so lived here about 10 years. Like the energy when I landed and everything, I love New Orleans, I miss it. So it's great to be back. Loyola is some of the best times in my life. You may not feel like it when you're in the moment sometimes with some of the schoolwork and everything, but, make those connections and get with the people that you need to get with and learn a lot,
Yeah, New Orleans is a real special place, and I definitely didn't realize it right away, but fell in love with it. In my first year here, this is like, I'm gonna sound really old, but this was like 2007, 2008, like after Katrina, and all I'd really cared about was music. I'd start making music when I was like 13, 14 in high school, learn how to make beats, scribbling songs in a notebook, learn how to engineer. So the chance to come out here and get to do something that I actually was passionate about in school around other people that were also like-minded was an incredible opportunity in a space as, rich in culture and history as New Orleans. So I think that the coolest takeaway was the people I met here and the inspiration I got, because you don't always realize it, but you're, being surrounded by like-minded people with similar goals and similar, passionate about similar things. I mean, music and the arts, to get to do this for a living is the greatest gift in the world. I mean, like, falling in love with music and being around other people as passionate about it and getting to work together and learn from each other, I mean, it's been more beautiful in life. So definitely, like, appreciate that, and that, if you're here studying this, then that's it could be worse.
So this might be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about how you guys came together. For you guys, Matt and G have been working together for over 10 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Since Matt's a year older than G at Loyola, and I guess that was the beginning of freshman year that you guys came together?
Yeah, the beginning that you helped with, because the first show I ever played, he had booked Afro Man for a concert. Y'all remember Afro Man? 'Cause I got high. And he asked me if I wanted to open up for Afro Man. I remember being so fucking scared, excuse me. Yeah, because I was like, I'd never really been on a stage. I was just like, I'd make beats in my dorm room and, record music and put it on MySpace at the time. But getting on a stage in front of real people was, the idea was terrifying. And I knew that, it was about 6 weeks out, but inevitably one day I'd wake up and it would be that day that the show was going to be on and I'd have to get on a stage. And we were like rehearsing at Matt's apartment in a driveway, like with a little PA he had. And before I walked on stage, I was scared shitless, and he looks at me and he says, "Are you ready? Because if you fuck this up, you're never gonna get to perform again in New Orleans."
I said, this is either the first show or the last show.
Yeah.
If it goes well, we've invited all of our friends, we put our name out there, so it's either like the first one, let's go,
Yeah.
or maybe like we invited everyone and we bomb it, like.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was the second time I performed. The first one was an open mic talent
comments.
show in the comments, and I got booed off stage. So the second show, I needed it to go a little better. And
Well, that was my first time seeing you.
yeah. And something happened. I walked on that stage that you put me on, and the second, my shoe touched it, and I walked out there, and I felt this energy of being in front of people, performing in front of real people, and I walked off, and it was like I was in love, and I knew I was never going to fall out of love. That rush, that excitement, that feeling of connecting with real people and getting to perform and take these ideas that started up here and put them on a stage and perform it with a room full of people, was just something I fell in love with. So thank you for that Afro Man show, Dan. I appreciate that.
Of course. There were some really great takeaways from that show that I'll never forget, which was the week before the show. Matt hit me up and he's like, hey, can we come to the venue and rehearse the day before? And I've never in my life heard of a local opening artist asking to come rehearse. And I was like, I guess, I don't know why, but sure. But that kind of stuck with me as something that the attention to detail that for you guys has been such a big part, of your success. It seems like you guys have never looked at anything like it was given to you. I always got the feeling that you guys are willing to put in the extra effort, and that the quality control is such a big part of that.
Yeah. But there's two things to that, and something really important that Matt taught me also right before I went on that stage was it's extremely important to practice and prepare. I mean, you get what you give. So if you show up prepared, it's just like anything else. It's well, this will come naturally because I've already put the work in and prepared myself. This isn't, the completely foreign, scary thing. It's no, I did the work. I rehearsed. But the other thing is, to forget everything. It's that, he says to me, it's okay, cool, just forget everything, go have fun. And that importance of, because at the end of the day, art, music, there's a rawness to, that electricity of when it's happening in front of you, when you're writing a song and it's just it's just coming out, or when you're on stage and you get so lost in the moment, it's you blink and, you're walking off stage because the show's over. That is it's very important to do the work and to train yourself with the know-how and the, everything, but at the same time, it's important to don't overthink it and just go have fun.
Yeah, I think something important is well, I grew up with a theater background, so I was used to after the show, you sit there, everyone sits on the front of the stage, and the director gives you notes and stuff. So you have to have that humility to accept these notes from somebody who has an eye that's looking at different things that you're not necessarily looking at. So like you said, we rehearsed in my driveway / backyard, and I'd film him, and when you see yourself doing it, it's a whole different thing. And then, but with that, you've put in so much work with the mechanics that I always tell him when he's looking super nervous right before stage, remember everything I told you? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, forget it all. Just go out there and have fun. Because he's probably going to, I always have corny sports analogies.
Me too.
But my baseball coach, that's what he would say. He's like, you're going to get hit in the head with a baseball if you're thinking about how to swing the bat. He's like, go out there and just play. You know what you're doing now. So it's putting the work in to where it becomes muscle memory and second nature. And then when you're going out there, just letting it flow and not getting caught up with all, the minutia of it.
Right. It seems like it's, there's a balance. There's the not trying to get caught up in it, but you also have to, you as the artist and you as the face of this, you have to play that role. And I imagine that there's times, and this is me going out on a limb, but I imagine there's times where it's hard to, just know when to turn it off and turn it on and be just, focused on the work versus, chill when people are asking, a million different things out of you, press and otherwise. So how do you now, when you're at a level where people are asking so much and it's less about fighting for the opportunities and maybe more sifting through the opportunities, how do you find that balance on a day-to-day between turning it on and turning it off?
Turning it off, balance. I wish I knew what those were.
Do you sleep?
You're always on. I don't sleep much. It's a balance of knowing what to say no to, and it's for so long we would take any opportunity we could get because they weren't just falling out of the sky, and they don't. We would anything we could get. The first tour I did, I was making the first real tour. First tours we did, it was playing for 6 people in the middle of nowhere in the middle of America in somebody's basement with a punk band Like, I don't know why we're here and who these people are and how this happened, but we're making $50 and that'll get us gas to the next city and maybe we can buy some fast food to eat tonight. Like, the first like real tour, you know, we're making $100 a show. And luckily we had 2 spots on a bus, and I thought, man, this is everything. We've made it. And then the next tour we got was Warped Tour, making $800 a show, but you're still, I think we maybe broke even, but probably we're losing money on a lot of early tours. But like,
The budgeting on that, though, we were like, $800 a show for 2 months? That's
yeah,
crazy.
I added that up. I'm like, wait, if the total of this is $30,000, that's crazy.
And then we did the math, and we're like, we got to pay this much for the bus, we got to pay the drummer, we got to pay everybody.
$40K to be over there. So anyway, but like, you know, early on, it's like you take any opportunity you can get because you're just trying to get in front of people. You're trying to make impressions on people. You're trying to get your music heard. You're trying to get your ideas out there. But you know, we've been very blessed and fortunate that hard work has come around full circle, and it's like, you know, we're here today. But the balance thing is important because it's like, you know, when opportunities come, it's learning what to say no to and how, you know, just to take care of yourself and whatnot.
So on those early tour dates, you know, when you talk about playing in front of 6 people and playing in front of a punk rock band or something like that, I think that there's a lot of people who look at touring or any, you know, gig opportunity as one thing. They're like, okay, this is an opportunity to go make some money and play, and hopefully I'll just magically acquire fans.
Yeah, no. I mean, here's the thing, like, you're trying to make people care about you. Like, if a fan is somebody who cares about you enough to take money out of my pocket and give it to you, like, and, you know, if you're a stranger in front of strangers and they don't care about you, getting them to care is hard, you know what I mean? So it's like, you're opening for somebody else's crowd, you know what I mean? And they're like rolling their eyes like, who the hell is this? Like, are you done yet? Like, is the headliner on? Like, so, you know, you have to make an impression. And I think what that comes down to is you have to have an identity. Like, identity goes into your brand, goes into your style, goes into the impression that you make. You know what I mean? It's like, do you have something to say? You know, are you doing anything different from everybody else? Because otherwise, you know, I came here as a fan of the headliner I paid to see, you know, so why should I care about you? And you have to find a way to stand out. And, you know, it didn't work for a long time. You know, but a really important thing. And I mean, I think that's a part of being an artist, and that's just life in general. You're constantly on a quest of self-discovery, and, you know, your identity changes and evolves as you change as a person. But ultimately, you know, your sense of self and expressing yourself through your music and have something unique to say is what it's really all about, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a few things there that, like, as far as the show, especially when you're opening mechanically, that because a few of our early tours, G was opening for Drake, and like we would just watch the headliner show every single day and take notes of how he structured the set list. You open with this type of song, the second song's a banger. You can kind of dip down into like the more album cuts or whatever in the middle, pick it back up, and like learn just tricks of how to address the audience, how to, you know, at the end, you know, hey, I'm G-Eazy, make some noise for Drake. Everyone goes nuts. You walk off. So it's like the perfect kind of mechanics that help go into a good show. So it's, you know, every show you guys see, just like pick up notes and take notes like crazy and just see what they're doing that works, what doesn't work. And with that, so another thing, I don't know if he still teaches here, but Goolsby had said this thing that was kind of like a really harsh way of thinking about it, but is also a really interesting way of thinking about it. He's like, look at each person that walks in the door as how can I make this a fan that can help, you know, make money for the rest of my life, or for G's life, whatever. And so how, you know, that goes into the fan experience. So with that is like when I'm training like a tour manager, you know, they have so much emails to do, but at the same time, go walk the venue, feel it out. And like, I used to tell like the security guards when they'd put the wristbands on people, don't throw the little thing on the floor, throw it in the trash, because I don't want the floor to be littered with that. Like, is the pre-show music on brand? Is everything how it would be? Is this like a G pre-show? Is like all of this on brand and exuding the brand and something that is like how we would do it, you know? And don't just let, like, are the lights too bright? Or just walk through the whole pre-show experience. Is the air too hot? You know, whatever. So just everything.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
goes into it.
that all goes into like retaining fans and brand loyalty. And brand loyalty is so important because at the end of the day, it's like you can't take it for granted. You know, the fact that these people care enough about you to spend their hard-earned money on a ticket and then to go out that night and find parking and wait in line for the show and go buy drinks or whatever, like that's like an experience that they're paying for that you need. So it's like, you know, maintaining a quality up here, it's like you've been to restaurants that you love and then you come back and the service sucks and the food sucks all of a sudden, you stop going. Like, you know, you put out a bad album and it's like 10 steps backwards, you know what I mean? It's the fans stop caring about you. So it's like that attention to detail and that, you know, caring, but like, once you have them, you know, it's a beautiful thing. But like trying to take them from somebody else, trying to get your foot in the door is a really tough thing to do. Like just to double back to the Drake thing, because like I feel like I kind of need to clarify this story a little bit because it would sound like a silver spoon, like, oh, you're opening for Drake. Well, I don't think he even knew I was like there on the tour. Like we were like snuck in on stage like 5 minutes after doors open and like no one's in there. And it's like we weren't
My
getting
partner
paid.
was his tour manager.
Yeah, so my other manager, his partner, long story, long-winded, became friends with Drake before Drake was Drake, and he was working as an assistant on a Lil Wayne tour. So when Drake became Drake, you know, he wanted Jamil, you know, to be his tour manager. And these were like the earliest Drake tours, and it was like Jamil kind of risking his job, like sneaking me on these shows and letting me perform for free if we could get to the city, like right when doors opened. But we gained nothing from it. What we gained from it was watching Drake and being in the crowd and studying what he was doing right and like learning from that as a student. Yeah, I think I have like a couple fans still that discovered me there, but it wasn't like, again, I didn't know myself yet. I didn't have my sound. I didn't have my identity. I definitely didn't have my look at all. I look gross. You know, and so not only was it nothing worth, you know, remembering to a fan who's like, who the fuck is this white kid on stage and where's Drake? Excuse me. You know, it took like going back to the drawing board and being like, okay, what are we doing wrong? We keep like running into a wall. It's not working. We're not, you know, and don't be afraid to experiment and get out of your comfort zone and try something different. And, you know, it's like if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, it's not working. Well, that's not really growth. And that's not like artistic experimentation of like, you know, letting yourself evolve and, you know, mature and grow. So
I think that was a key turning point for us. I literally remember the conference room we booked out in the library, and G was like, this plane is leaving the runway. I graduate in like a year. We need to make this work because I'm not going to go work at the fucking Apple store. Like,
yeah.
we need to make this work. So part of it is having the, like, you know, almost being intoxicated off of your own, like, hope and vision, but then also being brutally honest with yourself and saying, like, what's working, what's not. Am I trying something that's just hitting your head against the wall? Mm-hmm. And what do we need to change? And that's when we did a whole rebrand and figured out a whole new identity direction. And it can't be like superficial. You can pull elements from this inspiration, but you have to, like, you became that and learned this aspects of this inside and out.
Yeah.
So where, like, when that rebrand happened, it was just super authentic.
Mm-hmm. No, you have to live it, and it has to, especially in today's day and age, you know, the transparency is like no other. It's like, you know, there was so much like artist development in decades past, you know, and they would craft an artist like a science experiment in a lab and, you know, feed it to the world. And nowadays, I think the kids just spot bullshit. Like, if you don't live it, we don't believe you. You know, so it's like being authentic, but also at the same time, you have to like create this character of like, you know, and then live it. I mean, look at like Billie, she's so incredible, but she's like nothing else, you know, and it's like from her look to her sound to her perspective of, you know, like from a lyrical perspective and the story and the angle she's coming from and everything, but she's so unique and she's so good, but yeah.
Yeah, so that the attention to detail, the ability to make chances, especially early on when you're
and take risks. Like if you're not taking risks, then like don't bother, because it's literally it's not just going to land on your lap. It doesn't just happen on its own. And like, and we constantly live in that state of taking risks. It's like, you know, what was relative then may sound like nothing today, but at the time, our first music video, he and I both maxed out our credit cards. It's $1,500 limit each. So it's like, shot a video for like $3,000, but that was all we had, period. You know what I mean? So
that hit us harder than
hit it hardest today than, you know, whatever. So, you know, but we like put it all on the line. And when you put it all on the line, I can't afford to lose this money, so this has to work. And so we did all our homework we could, and that video was the first thing that kind of clicked, and it got me on my first tour. And this was like after the Drake days. Like this was like a year later. And then on this last album, I had an idea. I wanted to do a short film attached to the album. And I had been developing the concept with one of my favorite directors, one of my best friends, Bobby Brutterly, who's a photographer. He shot all my album art. He had this idea for bringing this like Tyler Durden narrator Fight Club duality of like Gerald G-Eazy to the screen in this like long form music video, short film thing. And we brought it to the label, and they're like, yeah, nah.
What am I going to do with a 20
What am I going to do with a long form 30-minute short film? It's like, nah. And it was going to cost us, what, like $600K? 700K. And we hoped that the label would pay for it, but we didn't have confirmation. But there was a window where it had to get shot before some tour dates or something like that if it was going to come out on time with the album. And I'm on the phone with Matt, and he's like, you have to make the call right now. If this comes out of your pocket, do you still want to do this short film? And I'm like, that's a lot of money. All right, and we went for it, and we took the risk, and we shot the film because it was an idea that I believed in, that you know, rounded out the concept of the album and went for it. And then Apple ended up paying for it later, and the risk paid off, and that was great, but we didn't know at the time. But that same, what was relative then at that was, you know, another time before I was even signed, I was making my first album, and we were touring by then independently. And we had self-released an album on TuneCore a year prior to that, and we were just saving up all the money we were making from TuneCore Monthly and touring, and we had about $100,000, and I was recording These Things Happen, and we shot the videos, 3 videos, and they each cost like $30. The videos were a little nicer by then than the first one on my credit cards. And that was a risk because that was everything we had at the time. But when the labels came back around and they wanted to sign me for that album, These Things Happen, it was already done. The work was it was served on a platter. So it was like, you know, you're going to do this on my terms because I don't need the advance to go make the album. The album's done, and the videos are done, and my brand is established, and we're here. So talk to me. What are we doing? Like, I want this. And, you know, but it's like taking that risk to go make these ideas come to life, get the work done, and you got to do that.
And even on a tiny level, you know, to be relatable to everybody here, you know, we go back 10 years and we're throwing like, you know, little parties here and there that were like $5 cover at like, what's Britannia Bar called now? I don't even remember. Yeah. That one up on Britannia across from the hospital. You guys know the one I'm talking about? Britannia Bar. There you go. We used to throw like little parties over there, and the attention to detail would be like, you know, in the artwork for the party and the messaging of, all right, are we calling this a party, or is it a dance party, or is it like a show? Mm-hmm. Trying to have like, you know, cool lighting inside, or like video projections, or little things like that they cost us nothing, but, you know, they took time and effort. And I think those are, you know, extremely scalable. And that's something that I think for you guys especially, as you've gotten, you know, bigger, it's an economies of scale thing. You know, it's bigger risks, but you still, I think, have to look at it the same way. You know, what is going to relate?
Same principle, and it is all relative. And like I said, like to us, like $1,000 at the time was like, that's my whole entire life.
That 3,000 budget hit harder than the 700.
Yeah,
and was that Run Around Sue?
Run Around Sue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was SP Dunks or not.
I think we shot that one for like $500.
I was going to say, if you spent $3,000 on that video,
yeah.
shaking my head.
Yeah. But I mean, the principle is the same: is invest in your craft, and, you know, attention to detail, do the work, and take the risk, and spend. You know what I mean? It's like ultimately it takes money to make money. Not saying that, you know, if, you know, write you a check for this and that's what's holding you back. It's like, you know, it's time and energy and focus and, you know, just investing in yourself to do it right.
Yeah, I think something that G comes back to with every video we do, and that you kind of alluded to with making sure there's a something, is whenever we look at a video, G's like, what's the there? Like, what is this video? Give me this video in a 1-sentence elevator pitch. And if it's just like this, or, oh, that's the video where G's kind of like in a 50s-esque thing. This is the video where there's like a frozen moment where, you know, all these things are happening and it's like a frozen moment and it's trippy because he's walking, you know, or this is the video where he's sitting there smoking a blunt for 4 minutes in slow motion.
Well, in the age of virality, and the attention spans are like that of a goldfish in most of y'all It's like, why should I care? You know, you missed me, you lost me. It's like the first, 10 seconds on Spotify thing. It's like, it's harder to get people's attention ever, and there's so much out there. So it's like, the one thing that people, it's one of the most mixed up things ever is that, idea doesn't always cost. An idea is what matters. So if you have a great idea, that can be a better, song or video or anything than, I've been on songs or seen videos happen of the biggest budget and the biggest artists, and
Hundreds
they do
of
nothing.
thousands of dollars, yeah.
They do nothing. And it's like, yeah, there was no there. There was no idea that was sticky, that mattered, that set it apart. You know what I mean? And it's like, you need people to talk about you. And if it's easy to talk about it and it's an intriguing sounding oh, yeah, I got to check that out, that's what matters. But ultimately, ideas, they don't always just fall down and land, and lightning doesn't always strike, and that gets hard. But, when you get good ideas, then...
But there's ways, I think, of jugging that kind of, and so with Instagram, for example, I always save any dope idea I see, I save it to the bookmarks and then put it in little folders. And so you'll need those ideas, but then when you're kind of dry on ideas, you go through and it reminds you of the things. And that photo might not necessarily have anything with the final product you're doing, but you're let's put everyone in these color palette match things, or it just gives you that thing. So when I watched Abstract on Netflix, it helped me understand the ways of not forcing creativity, but sometimes it's part of our profession. So you have to constantly surround yourself with inspiration, go to museums, watch movies, and constantly be taking notes. And it's crazy because I'll be walking with G in Berlin or whatever, and he'll look at a poster on a wall, and then I'll hear that come up in his lyrics or whatever. So you have to just be an antenna receptive to all of the inspiration around you, and just constantly be feeding yourself with the inspiration you need to constantly come up with the good ideas and have ideas on deck. And sometimes you hear the song, it might just come right away. Other times you need to do things that help feed that.
Yeah. Have y'all ever read Great Artists Steal, or what is it? What's that little book called? The little coffee table book, Great Artists Steal. I mean, it's incredible, and you read it in 30 minutes. It's short. It's basically, we all steal, but it's I took this little thing from this, and 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 these ingredients mixed to taste like something that's completely different, and you never would have known that, this came in. And an artist's process, is drawing inspiration, from all these different types of places, and then internalizing it and expressing that out in your unique way. Because ultimately, you've lived your life that nobody else can live. You've been exposed to things that, that are different from, things you've seen or things you've seen or whatever. So it's combining all these influences, and then kind of curating putting it together and then giving it out in your unique way,
So some things have never changed. Having great ideas, trying to get them down and trying to get them out to people, but I also look at the difference between, 10 or 11 years ago, how you guys were promoting all of the projects that you're creating and what kids have today. I mean, you came into Loyola with a pretty poppin' MySpace page. And there was...
They're like, what's MySpace?
That's nothing to be ashamed of. It was the medium of our time. But, look at the kids today, and I remember being at a Loyola class and George Howard coming in and going, I want to show you guys this website. It's called Twitter, and I want you guys to all sign up for it.
Oh, we sound so old. Oh.
It's interesting to think of how you can give the same project to somebody today, a completed project, and the same project to somebody 10 years ago, and you say, how would you market this? Influencer marketing was not a thing, 10 or 15 years ago. The way a marketing plan is fundamentally changed, and yet you still get in a van or a bus and, and you go out on tour and play tour dates. That hasn't changed, but, blog culture, for instance, was so big early on. You guys were making connections with, Ear Milk or whoever it was at the time, and
they were the Gatekeepers. It was around 2010, which is the first time we started getting any traction. Blogs, if anybody remembers, Two Dope Boys, stuff like that. So these writers on the blogs who were ultimately the curators of the culture and the gatekeepers of, if you got posted on a certain blog, that was that was where the people were looking for what's dope. You know what I mean? So if you were on this platform, that was a cosign at the time. So what we would do is, we'd look up the writer and we'd find their email somehow, and we'd email them ourselves. Like, I would email some blogs, he would email some blogs, and send our music. Now it's like, all right, getting playlisted on Rap Caviar is like just as much as getting added to the biggest radio station. You know what I mean? It's like a break like that. But it's relationships, it's acknowledging who the gatekeepers are and getting to them, which isn't easy. I mean, it's like these people get spammed and but once you get your foot in that door and keeping that relationship with these people who ultimately hold the power and are the tastemakers, the gatekeepers, the curators of like what happens culturally.
Yeah, and in a way that it relates to them, there's gatekeepers at every level.
Absolutely.
Your gatekeepers early on, I remember you guys would go play tour, and it would be at Albuquerque and like Sickus. Was that the clothing brand that was out there?
Out here.
Oh, that was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, you were in a way, like you were one of the first gatekeepers because you booked concerts, and being friends with us, I think you probably wanted to help me out with that look and putting me on that first show. Or he worked at Republic as a promoter and, had quickly like risen up, and became good friends with, the general manager of Republic, Nick Thomas, who was the gatekeeper for that and put us on a stage, a real stage, with my own show, at Republic for the first time, and built that relationship. And then, so I mean, those relationships with the right people, are very important.
Yeah, I think something else too is putting your homework in, because I read like a ton of emails that I get, even like spam, almost spamish ones, or like just cold emails. And sometimes it'll be a great email and we'll like respond to it and stuff. But it's somebody who addresses the person by name, looks up a lot of stuff, that has done their homework, and that's like, if you're just like blasting people like rudely and absurdly and just sending crap to people, they're not going to respond and help you. But if you put in the respect to show that like, hey, I noticed you post this other song that's like very similar, or like it seems you like hip hop things with these kind of musical influences, then you just put that work in and you get a better response from people. And that's how you reach out to those gatekeepers at different levels.
You get what you give. That's just the general of life. You get what you give. And just like, sitting around waiting to be put on, or thinking all you're missing is, the right cosign from another artist, or if I could only get on this tour, or, why isn't my music getting discovered? Like, there's no getting discovered anymore. There's no like magic guy at record label X who discovers you and gives you a developmental deal and da-da-da-da. No, like, you discover yourself and you put yourself out there, and if it doesn't work right away, like, don't get irritated. Like, did not work for us forever, and I really firmly believe that if you love what you do, and you're doing music because you love it, right? Like, because you love this more than anything else, and there's nothing that you can see yourself doing besides this, because I'm so passionately in love with this process of making music, well, then that's why I'm doing it, right? I mean, ultimately, you have to make a living. You have to put a roof over your head. You might have a family you have to provide for. You have to put food in your stomach. So that's just reality. But like, if you are in a position to get to make music and you enjoy making music, then you've made it. Because like, the ability to even do this is step one. It's a blessing beyond belief, getting to create if you love creating. So then past that, if you love doing it, then you're going to do it a lot. And anything you do a lot, you get better at. And if you get better at it through time, most times if you work smart and you think about what you're doing, then it's gonna grow. It's gonna find its audience. It's gonna find itself, its identity. You're gonna find yourself as a person, as an artist, and it's gonna reach. But if you're only doing this, for like a return, or what you're expecting to get out of it, or like, you know what I mean? And then it's just like, well, you're gonna be disappointed if it doesn't immediately, succeed. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, the success rate is like very,
minuscule.
yeah, it's like.
But there's,
Good luck in music, guys, man. You chose the right one.
I mean, there's a lot of people who, run into walls and they give up early. Somebody tells them no. One of their best friends or something says, I don't like your music, or something like that.
And it sucks being told that, you know what I mean? Like, it sucks. Like, even today, like these days, like, I'll write a song and I'll send it, to my team and see what they think. And, when they're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this one. It sucks. It's like, damn, like, but that's a part of it. And the best hitters in baseball hit it 1/3 of the time. You're not going to like strike gold every time you go into a studio or make something. And and also like developing the thick skin for like criticism is very important. Critique is central to creative growth, you know, being able to receive critique, but also at the same time, yeah, it's never going to be that comfortable to hear, yeah, that sucks. But sometimes it's important to be able to fail, to be like, okay, like I see what I wasn't doing here. Let me like, you know.
I think to calibrate your mind to think about if you're trying to make money off music, you're putting yourself in like an NBA level, almost professional league of people who have put in that much work. And you know, people always come to me and they're like, oh, like I just need a manager to make it. Like, do you think that was like on LeBron or Kobe's mind when they're shooting their 10,000 hours in the gym? Like, no, they're not like, oh, I just need a manager to show how good I am. You know, like it's, you got to work that hard to get, that's the career you want, you know, and you do it in any other field, but you just got to look at music or whatever your creative endeavor is as like, and even before I met G, I was like running in place super fast and like and just like reading all the books, reading all the stuff and like just figuring it out. So like when I met him, I kind of, you know, we clicked and figured out what to do, but it's like we both had the work ethic that was like, I mean, like an NBA level work ethic, like doing that much stuff to be successful and not just taking anything for granted, not making excuses, not looking at, I need this kind of a team, I need this kind of a record deal, if I only had this. You know, you have to be brutally honest and work that hard to earn it, you know?
And it seems like signing on with a team, sometimes people look at it as a shortcut to where somebody else is going to do a lot of that work, where at least I personally look at it as that's a responsibility. You now have another person with a vested interest in you and vice versa. You now owe it to that other person. You know, they're putting in their half. You now need to take the part, what you do, you know, you make music. You got to work twice as hard to justify this other person investing time in you.
Yeah, but it's like, it's almost like in today's world, you can't just make music. You gotta know the language of like every area, and it's like, you know, especially early on, because it's like, you know, it's nice to do, I just want to create, and that's your job over there to do this, that, and the other. It's like, nah, like, you know, getting people to work for you, getting people to believe in you is tough, and building a team, you know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta like cover a lot of bases to like, before, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, people are always like, oh, like, I need a manager to do this. But when G and I met, he was literally, like, full-time on himself. Like you said, like, running his own MySpace, designing it, mixing, or recording, mixing, like, producing, like, the whole process himself. So are you so full-time that you need then somebody else? You're bringing on a full-time employee. They might not be getting paid right away, and they might invest their time in you. But it's like you said, having that respect for their time where you're working hard enough to justify bringing on this other employee that you frankly like can't afford until you can, of, you know, like putting that return in. Because, you know, I've had other clients where you know, they just take it for granted, and these favors and like putting my name out there and getting them opportunities and stuff. But, you know, if they don't reciprocate that level of hard work, so you just got to think about that, like as you're building the team. And another way that you can get people on board and like not pay them in a sense, but like sell them the vision. It's like, this is what this is going to become. This is how I see your role, and being honest with them, and always having those like hard conversations up front is so much easier, and harder at the time, but easier in the long run. And like figuring out like what's your role, it's how it's going to be, and just defining that, you know, as you go forward.
Yeah, manage your expectations early on. I think that's a huge part of keeping people, you know, with having the right attitude through the entire project. And framing it in a way, you know, like I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are starting to build teams, and maybe you've run into something where, you know, there's an artist who played a show, they're like, wait, I'm not going to get paid for this show. And it's like, yeah, we're all working. None of us are getting paid for this show. We're going to take that $200 and it's going to pay for the flyers and the Facebook ads and, you know, the people that we bought drinks for at the bar, because, you know, we wanted everybody to have, you know, a really good time. Seems like that expectations thing early on is really big, and, you know, I think we've all seen artists early on, you know, back in the college days, who they put their kind of first team together and their image, and it didn't quite work out, and, you know, maybe there was some bitterness or other reasons that they kind of went away, and they kind of lost that momentum. And I think when everybody really works at it and thinks of it as a holistic, we all win together approach, nobody's looking for that short-term buck or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Anybody have any questions?
Can you speak up a little bit?
A private preview party, yeah, for the last album.
And I personally, I don't know any other artist who's done something like that, and it was a really cool experience. Besides like great marketing,
Yeah.
was there any artist that inspired you or anything that inspired you to do that?
I think the idea is telling fans thank you, like, and making sure they know, and you can't, like, my arms aren't big enough to hug everyone, but I want to, like, at least open the doors to do this event, to let you come hear this album before the rest of the world does, because it's like, you are the reason I'm here. The hardcore, like day one, like whatever you want to call it, like real true fan, you know, and I want you to know that you're appreciated, that, like, without you, this is not alive. Like, it only lives here. But, like, the fans, like, give the music its whole entire life. You know what I mean? So it's saying thank you. And then from a marketing side, it's like, okay, you're thinking about the word of mouth. I want people talking about the music. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, that's like when everybody's talking about one party in the city, okay, that's the biggest thing tonight. You know what I mean? If no one's talking about it, then it's like if a tree falls in a forest. So you need people to talk about it.
I think part of that too is super serving your fans. And people always think to like, oh, I need to reach out and get all these new fans and opportunities. But
yeah, don't lose your core.
Like, the core is so important. If we sold an album to like every one of your Instagram followers, you'd be the biggest selling artist in the world. 7 million followers, like, you know. So it's like you don't need to always like reach. Like, super serve your core. Find those people. Pay all, like, we came out of pocket like crazy to rent a movie theater, to rent like a club and a venue, and it's all just giving back to be like, we appreciate you guys. You guys are the mavens that pass this around, and tell all your friends. If I can get this person to tell 5 friends and they all buy an album, like, that's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Besides it being your passion, is there anything else in your life that like drives you to get up every morning, write down on a piece of paper, or go to live events and this, that, and the other every single day?
Yeah. For me, a big motivator is my mom. Is being able to give back to my mom and help take care of her. That's just, you know, when your back's against the wall, that you can't move backwards. That's it. Like, you have to go forward. And I was at an age where, like I say, the plane getting off the runway, you know, if that plane doesn't get off that ground, you're going into the water. That's just reality. Like, that runway ends. So, you know, it's like, we had to win. We had to get it. We had to. And it wasn't going to just get itself, you know, and I'm lucky that, like, you know, my had to go to work wasn't like something that I hated. You know what I mean? It's like, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. Like, you got to make do. So it's like, you know, aside from just like getting still excited, you know, to go to the studio and that excitement of like that, you know, brand new song hot off the press and listening to it in the car on the way home, you know what I mean? And all that, and having fun, like, you know, past that is like, yeah. And then also being cognizant of, you know, I'm very blessed to be here. I could give you every step of our blueprint of what we did, and it might not work, like, for you. It might not. And it's like, I am grateful every day that it did. But the end of the day, as much as I wish I could, there's no, like, foolproof, like, rhyme or reason or, like surefire path to it. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So when it does, treat that blessing with care. You know what I mean? And keep giving back to it and working for it. Hustle. Just hustle.
You were talking about critique and, you know, artistry not growing without critique. And sometimes, you know, you make something and you think it's great, but still you go to, you know, colleagues or even just friends who aren't involved in music and you ask them their opinion. And sometimes you get mixed reviews where, you know, someone who is experienced will say, nah, you know, you got to change it like this. But someone who isn't involved in artistry is like, no, I like it. So how do you differentiate between maybe experienced and consumer views when you're critiquing?
Man, it's crazy because as the artist, you are the artist. And there's one person who gets to make that executive decision. If, you know, you can, your whole entire team can tell you, that song sucks, I warned you. you know, but if you say it means something to you, you get to, you know, and sometimes you got to try and learn for yourself. Okay, you know, that one didn't work. Okay, but sometimes, you know what I mean, like, you're different than everybody if you're the, you know, you created it. I like to, sometimes I fill my studio with close friends or other artists from other mediums because, you know, it's all relative in a sense. It's different ways of telling stories and expressing yourself. And, you know, you may not know the technique of writing music or how to count bars or, you know, verse, hook, bridge, whatever, like, but you listen to music. We all listen to music, and you know what you like or don't. Or you may say, I walk around the studio and I say, what am I not saying yet? Or how can I articulate this and say this the right way? You know what I mean? But you got to know in your heart of hearts is, you know. But yeah.
I think part of that, too, is finding the right time to get their feedback, too. Because there's times when G's, like, super in studio mode, create, and it's like a fragile creative state to where he may not be as receptive to feedback. But then right after that kind of studio phase ends, then he can be in a more analytical mindset and understand, because he doesn't have the, like, attachment to a certain song or moment. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I understand, like, what your critique was better.
Yeah.
So it's on the manager side, because I know a lot of you guys aren't only trying to be artists, is understanding that creative flow of the artist and knowing when there's like a good moment that.
Because we're hella sensitive. Hella
super.
Yeah.
First off, I just want to thank y'all for being here. It means a lot to all of us students. We hear a lot about you, and they talk about us a lot. Y'all, they talk about y'all a lot in our classes, especially John Snyder right here and Billy O'Connell. So, very good things. But one of the most valuable things, like one of the most valuable takeaways we get from these forums is the opportunity, especially the artist, to potentially get feedback on the music that we put a lot of time and effort into. If we wanted to get potential feedback from any three of you guys who are constantly hearing music that is like at the top of its game, how would we go about doing that?
Yeah, you can. I'll give you an email. You can send me some stuff. I'll listen to it today.
This also might be a little bit too much, but I have a CD as well.
Yeah.
And my website's on the back as well.
Now I got to find a place to play this.
G, and I just want to, DJ Spin here, I just want to reiterate something that he said. The one thing that Matt and G did, their relationships were crazy. The relationships that they built, for me watching them come up and DJing in Republic and him playing my music and then going to travel, and then everywhere that I would pop up, G would be there. He would be there with people that I knew, and his drive and their determination set it apart from them. They had it from the time. I didn't like some of your music, but when I Mean It came out and I text you, I was like, you got it, bro. That was it.
Appreciate that a lot, bro. That's big, bro.
Hey, G. I'm spreading on a message from somebody else. There was a LEPD officer who used to work here. He said he used to go by your room quite often. His name was Robbie, I believe.
They were
Robbie,
what?
Robbie, he said his name was.
Rob Epps?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
So Curry and I were in the studio like not even a week ago. He was like, if you guys just haven't had the opportunity, make sure to say hey and just to say thank you for like go ahead and putting that like inspiration into us. Like it's really cool knowing that like we're not the only people that really came into this like really wanting to gun in and do it all. Like you're an inspiration. It really means a lot. Thank you for everything you've done.
Right on. Thank you, man.
We got some folks up here, corner.
Hi, sorry. I just kind of wanted to know what your creative process was like, and Matt also mentioned how like you have to like know which projects to pick and choose, and how do you do that? And also like Wobble Up is a bop, so.
Say that again?
Wobble Up is a bop.
Man, I mean, navigating like, you know, what you say yes and no to, because it's also real delicate. Like I say, we're all sensitive, like hella sensitive. Artists, like, and people in this industry, they take no, like, hard, you know what I mean? And ultimately, you have to say no, because you can say yes to everything, but it gets hard. It's like, so, say Chris Brown, you know, FaceTimes me, and he goes, Gee, I got a song, man, I need you on my album, da-da-da-da, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, send it to me. He's like, yeah, I just did, play it right now. And I'm like, all right. and then I play it, you know what I mean? If I don't like it, you know, yeah, I can't do this one. You know what I mean? It's hard to tell people that. You know what I mean? Chris Brown's fire. You don't say no to Chris Brown, man. It's like, yeah. But I'm saying like navigating that, you know, and managing your relationships, but at the same time, knowing yourself and just being like, this is not me, or, you know, the timing of this project or this move or this, that, and the other is, you know, can come into play. But in terms of creative process, you mean like in the studio? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tequila's involved, and you know, some Stillhouse. No, I mean it's like I don't like to hear a beat if I can't like go right in the booth like right then. So like sometimes like, you know, I'll get to the studio. I like it really cold in there. Like I blast the AC till it's like an igloo, and like make the lights dark, and then play it, and I'll just like start mumbling or like go to a corner and be mumbling and like start writing stuff down, and then like as soon as that's like the verse or the hook's there, like I'll go straight into the booth and cut it. And it's like a balance of like you don't want to let like a song, like you work on one song for too long in a space, you need an air break, you need to step out, and you need to come back to it fresh. Like last night I started one song and I kind of hit a wall with it. So left, got some food, came back. I didn't even want to hear it because I didn't think I liked it. We wrote a whole nother song. And then I was like, yo, let me hear that one that we were working on earlier. And all of a sudden, fresh, it was like, oh, shit, this was tight. Like, and I knew exactly what it was missing, and then finished that one. You know what I mean? With the soccer jersey?
So I'm a really big fan. So this is the first time I actually get to see you in person and everything.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask you, like, do you think creativity is putting your heart and soul into something, or is it like just letting your mind be free and, you know, just come up with whatever comes in mind?
Yeah, it's like I was talking about this morning. It's a balance of like critical thinking and free thinking, because like you have to like just let your mind go and don't overthink. Like I'll catch myself overthinking, and it's like, you know, just relax, just let it flow naturally. But then the critical side is like, okay, yeah, I'm 80 songs into my album right now, so we have to be able to like get critical now and say, okay, all of them can't be on it. Let's see, like these songs make more sense. This is stronger for this reason, this, that, and the other. And then finishing one song on its own is the same kind of thing. It's like being able to like, you know, freestyle for 15 minutes straight is tight, but being able to write a song that, you know, those 3 minutes and 30 seconds change your entire life, and you know what I mean, you're traveling the world because of that one song that was, you know, like so finely put together is, you know, really tight too. So like, you know, it's a balance. Yeah, yeah.
Yo, how do you do your hair, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I think he was talking to me. I don't know who we're looking at.
Who else has a question?
Yeah. We have one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And you know, like what I was saying, you're going to school with like-minded people. Not everybody wants to do the same thing in music. Like not all of you guys want to be artists. You know, maybe some of you are going to be agents or managers or producers or engineers, or you know what I mean. Every role is important. You know what I mean. It's like it's sexy and attractive to want to be like the face of something sometimes, but it's like that's just one role, and appreciating every single role. Like an engineer is a role I think that's widely like not appreciated as much as it should be. Like, bro, a bad engineer will mess up your whole session and throw off your creativity, and something great that could have happened in the studio that night didn't get made. A great engineer is equal parts part of the process. You know
what
I mean?
happened to the last great engineer you came across?
I met my engineer. He was working at Quad in New York. That's like where Tupac got shot. It's a famous studio, and he's the head engineer in New York. And we worked, and he was the best engineer I'd ever worked with. He was so quick and intuitive, and his song got made super quick. And it was like, we were going to come back for another session the next day. I was like, find that kid. I need him. I need to work with him, period. Long story short, he's the car. He ended up like finishing my album, which is When It's Dark Out. And I asked him at the end of the process, look, this might sound crazy, but do you want to quit and move to LA and just like mob with me full time? And he was like, I'm in. And I don't, you know, I barely record without him. So it's like every job is important. So it's like really like acknowledging that, saying that, and telling them. Tell your friends you appreciate them. Tell the people who help you make your dreams come true, thank you for playing your role in this, because that mattered, and I appreciate that. And come home. Like, always come back home. You know what I mean? It's like where you started is equally as important as wherever you want to go. That sounds really corny. But like, you know what I mean? It's all part of the journey, and it's all a part of like your sense of self. And yeah.
I think to also answer your question, it's like, that's how I met G here. I met Tyler E here. I met like all the people who became the nucleus of our team at the time here. So you network across, like you said, find the members of your team that you need to like go forward. And then also you're only going to get out of it what you put in. And I know that's like super cliche or whatever, but like the people who treat it like a class and, you know, just barely pay attention, just do enough to get by, that's what you're going to get out of it. But if you sit there and like grill the teacher during office hours, if you go there and like, read the book but understand it, like what does this actually mean, and don't just treat it like work. And I don't know, I know that sounds like cliche and corny or whatever, but like that's, you're going to get out of it what you put in, straight up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I think regrets are like unhealthy, but like there were times definitely when we were like probably like aggressively trying to tour, and it was really DIY, and we were losing money and playing to no one. And it's like if you added up all the tickets we sold on like a week and a half run through like, you know, the South or whatever, it was like, oh, this adds up to like 86 people. Like this, you know what I mean? We played a bunch of shows, made nothing, and like whatever. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you win by losing sometimes and learning and all that. But like I really think the key step before like really touring is like reaching people online, getting a little bit of virality, like a little bit of a, you know what I mean, a buzz, a conversation on it. Because it's just like, you know, if I invest in a video that, you know, gets 100,000 views or whatever, like that reached more people than I did on 2 weeks of actual real time, being out there on the road, losing money, driving all these places, like, you know.
That's what goes into what we were talking about earlier is the there of the videos. Why are we going to get someone to watch this 3 or 4 minute video when people have 12-second Insta story attention spans?
Yeah.
You know, and like making content that's so good that it grows legs and walks itself around, and people want to share it. They want to share those YouTube videos. But yeah, like networking and like you said, keeping those relationships. And I reached deep in my Rolodex, and yeah, a lot of the shows were kind of like, not you, but like some of those shows were like bogus, like not great shows. But then some of them were like us opening for like Mike Jones, and Philly was like pretty tight, like 2,000 people. Or like I made cool with this girl who worked at the radio station in Detroit. She ended up booking us for like.
Oh, that's the one thing we gained from the Drake story. Can I tell the story?
Yeah.
So those earliest days, we did make one fan that changed my life. One fan, and like she was working at the radio station as an intern, and we met her like early before the concert, performed, and she like watched my set and loved me so much that she wanted to bring me back to perform at her school. And she became the like position at her school just to accomplish this, of like coordinating like the talent booking and like the events for the kids. And like she got to play in this concert, and it was Big Sean, it was Big Crit, it was Wale.
That was the second one.
Huh?
The first one was I forgot their name. The
But she booked
party
us.
like a party people. You know the.
Oh, the LMFL.
Yeah.
It was bad. But like she booked this show to be able to bring us back, and she asked Matt, you know, I mean, I probably can't afford you guys' rate, you know what I mean? But we have about $6,000 in the budget, and he said, yeah, well, okay, we'll make an exception for you. We'll take it. I mean,
the most we'd ever gotten was like 400 for a show.
Yeah.
And she was like, "What's y'all's rate?" And I wanted it to sound like authentic, so I was like 6,500. Like not just 6,000 or something, but I was like 6,500. Make it sound real, you know?
Yeah, we finessed, and that 6,500 probably paid for like, you know,
the beginnings of the next cycle of videos.
Yeah.
I remember you guys getting the money. I was like, holy
Big finesse. Essential. No, sir. Yeah. The one I made last night. Yeah. My bad. No, you could. Yeah, y'all both could go. Whichever. Y'all got the next two. Who flip a coin? I mean, yeah, there's definitely like, so this album I'm making right now is like a sequel to my first album, and it's all about like, I think there's a lot of fear in like losing yourself, you know, as we grow, as we, you know, change, you know, like, and that's natural, that's human, and especially as a creative, and you have these time capsules of old albums to go back and listen to and be like, damn, that was me then, you know what I mean, and my life's not the same anymore, I've changed and I've grown, you know, and part of that's natural, but like the key, you know, goal, mission, always throughout life is to maintain your sense of self and don't ever lose that, you know, in this like wild roller coaster of like a, you know, and it gets hard not to, like the music business is crazy, and you know, being on the road for 9 months straight, you know, that's, you know, it's a wild life, and it's like you're being pushed and pulled in a lot of directions, and it's like one thing I talk about is like, you know, bunch of people may all have a slightly different version of the me they like. Like, oh, I like his type of music like this, or I like, you know, I only like this stuff, or I only like, you know what I mean? It's like, and you try to appeal to everybody, but you can't make everybody happy. And, you know, you grow and you learn more about yourself, but at the end of the day, just make yourself happy and just remember who you are. Trying to. Yeah, it's hard to make everybody happy, though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was actually a sound guy. Yeah. But for me, what the two big takeaways I learned from that was learning like the criticism, critique role of it and how important that is to making the show. Because we like rehearsals, dress rehearsals, and bringing that, as Dan mentioned, to, you know, like hip hop or this kind of sphere was something that helped, I feel like, propel G early on. That helped us elevate our live shows. Like when he launches a tour, we go and live in whether Seattle or Dallas for a week, and we just critique the show. G has his camera guy go and do the show like he's him and say, oh, like we should have the lights like this, we should, and you know, you watch it from many different angles and ideas and bring all those perspectives together. And then the other thing that it taught me was learning the vocabulary of each of the fields you work in. So I can't do anything with lights or sound or any of that, but I have the vocabulary to tell the lighting guy what we're looking for this specific song. So it's respecting someone's field to where you learn the vocabulary to where you can then communicate the ideas that you would like to happen for your show, to express certain moments. And, you know, I learned the vocabulary of like the music video world, or the live show world, the lighting world, like all these different things. And like this, you know, sound guy or lighting guy or whatever, he's not used to people coming to them with that like level of vocabulary knowledge in their field, because that's what makes them happy. That's what they're really good at. So, you know, approaching someone with that level of respect will make them want to like work for you harder, and you can then achieve like a doper goal with what it is. And that, you know, selling that vision and then having A players doing A work is how you get the best results. So if you can speak that vocabulary to them and inspire them, then you're going to get the best result out of them.
In that back corner. Yeah, that's you. Congratulations.
I still don't consider myself an adult.
I for sure am not.
I think put yourself out there, like put yourself out there. Like I worked when I lived here, I worked at Republic, Helen Wolf. I did street team stuff. I worked with like the sound people. I just tried to stick my foot in all the different pools and figure out what I wanted to do. And like the earlier you start, the better. Because I know people that are 30, 35, whatever years old that don't know what they want to do. So just dive in, pick something, and be the best one at it, and make a statement. Like when I used to be a production assistant for music videos, I was the best one there. Like whether sweeping the floor, getting people water, whatever it is, you make a statement with your work ethic. And literally whatever it is you want to do, just be like the fucking best at it. And it'll make a statement to like your bosses, whoever, and you'll get those opportunities. One of our tour manager assistant, our last tour, was working in Mandeville at a Mexican restaurant. And our tour manager that we hired was like, this kid's amazing. His work ethic is unparalleled, Johnny, in the last tour. And we literally brought him on tour. So like whatever you're doing, just be the best at it. And don't treat it like a job, treat it like a career. And people will notice.
What's been like the biggest challenge like that's come from your success?
I'm not going crazy. Challenge, biggest challenge.
Maybe dividing up where you want to put your time. Like we work at, like he has a charity component. We have film stuff. We have music stuff, acting,
recording, touring, like, and then personal life. Like, and kind of like one of the first things we talked about that you asked me was like balance. And at the end of the day, it is important to like try to live a healthy, balanced lifestyle. And, we tend to be workaholics, and, but you gotta take care of yourself too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. I cringe. I It's weird, like, no, I don't really listen to my music. It's only like when it's brand new, I'll listen to it to like, as I'm making it, as I'm, the next day test. Like if you listen to something you made the night before in the studio, if it passes the next day test, okay, it's a keeper. But once it's out, I never really go back to it. Yeah.
Low-Key? You know the song Low-Key?
Stop. Stop. No, please don't look that up. Getting booed off stage. I don't know. I've been trying to ask myself this whole time.
No, like we had a mutual friend who showed me his music, and like usually when people like give you stuff, it's just whatever. But I was like, wow, there's a level of like vision and craft that went into G's early work that I had noticed. And then when I saw the first show, like he said, it wasn't amazing, but I had that sensitivity, or that eye also, to know like what could be developed, and then it's always a work in progress, and you have to put that work in.
Yeah, and that takes imagination, and like you have to have imagination to believe in something that doesn't exist yet, and that's why we're creatives. You know what I mean? Because you have to see what no one else sees, and no one saw it. Like it didn't look like it
for years.
Yeah, and I mean it's a weird mix of like, to really go, you have to be so insanely confident in yourself, because you're putting yourself out there, and it's scary, and you're vulnerable, and you're naked up there. Like this is your stuff that you're putting out there. So it takes a lot of confidence, in yourself, and a lot of imagination in what doesn't exist yet. And when everybody tells you you're crazy, or laughs at you, or like, what I'm saying, says you suck, or like whatever, you gotta be confident enough to. But at the same time, the yin and yang to that, and these are like polarizing, characteristics, but it takes both, is the humility, is the humility to like, if it doesn't happen right away, or if you know what I mean, you get like, you know, told that your music sucks or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't, you know what I mean? You don't just give up, or you don't take it to heart, or you don't, you know what I mean? Or you can accept critique and you can get better. And if you hit your head against a wall, you go again, you know, you try, you fail, you try, but at the same time, you know, like, you want to cut everybody's head off and you want to be the best in the world and you want to go for it and you want to, you know, believe in something that's not there yet. So it's that balance. It all starts with imagination.
Thanks.
Career highlight?
Yeah.
Probably Oracle Arena. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, it's different for you,
yeah.
for me, maybe.
Yeah. What's yours?
I mean, for me, it was craziest besides like seeing you at like iHeart on stage, you know, or VMAs with Britney or like whatever, is when you got your house.
Yeah.
Like that tripped me the fuck out because I was like, we literally flipped this from credit card debt to that, and like seeing these like physical objects, I was like, damn, the shit's crazy.
I'd be like, I own this shit. That's tight. Yeah, you know, in the process of buying my mom a house right now, and that'll be it. That's like, you know, that's everybody's biggest dream and goal. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, right on. I don't want to bore y'all and keep y'all here forever.
I think we got time for one or two more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
On a holiday, too.
Y'all are here on your day off. That's fire. Thank you. Convenient. Yeah, yeah. I would say I'm like borderline addicted to progress, and even if that meant baby steps, I felt like I was moving or making some kind of progress, and like, you know, I have 10 new followers this week, or like I'm gonna go put up these posters, you know, to promote this show so it does better like this Friday, you know, at Republic, or like I'm gonna like, you know, I see more people in the crowd this time than last, or like, I don't know, like, you know, putting out music to like, you know, when we were just like self-releasing stuff independently, it's like in my head, it's like, well, every time I keep doing this, I'm working towards something, you know? So even if it was like little baby steps, it was still steps, and it, you know, I felt like I was working towards something, even if it was in my head. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's discouraging times when, like, the most discouraging thing ever was, like, when we put out our first, you know, real album on TuneCore, and this was, like, when I was, like, making all the beats and, like, engineered, mixed it myself, and, like, we were touring, and we had shot a video. It was the most expensive one we'd done, and it was, like, you know, $25,000, and back then, TuneCore, you had to wait. I don't know if you still do, but you wouldn't get the money from, like, your first week or month until 2 months after. So and you didn't know what you sold either until then, until you got like your report sheet. And I was like, you know, I'd read like the iTunes comments or how many times it'd been rated to try to guess in my head how many records we've sold. And I was thinking a number up here, what I really needed it to be. And when I saw that report and it was only here, and it was only like, it was $16,000, but I was already like 30 in debt, and I really needed it to be more. You know what I mean? And it was this. It was like deflating. I was like, damn, like. You know, but, you know, and that's when it was like, you know, we were all sharing motel rooms, like someone was sleeping on the floor, like, you know, the earliest touring, and like, yeah. But, you know, go back to the drawing board. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, there was not many of them for a while. And then there was like a turning point where all of a sudden, like, something creatively unlocked. His wife now, who's always been, you know, like in our circle and one of my, you know, closest friends, she brought me a song And she was like, you should flip this, you should sample this. And it was by a band called Tennis, and the song's called Marathon. And I did that song, and it was the first one that I wouldn't say viral, but I would say mini, it got some attention, and it was on some of the blogs that are hard to get on. And that was like, holy shit, we're doing it. It's happening. And that belief in that, like, holy shit, this magically is like finally happening and coming to life. It's like, something unlocked, something clicked. And then, every song I put out after that didn't, it was some but we just kept, and I just believed it, and just
And I think doing our homework on music videos, hardcore, I think each video at the time was like a major milestone, stepping stone, whether it was like Run Around Sue, Ben On, Let's Get Lost, Almost Famous, or we just put an insane amount of pre-production time into coming up with sticky ideas that would rocket it forward.
I mean, if you're betting $30,000 you want to make a smart bet, and you're gonna do all the work you can do until you have to put it out, and ultimately, you could try everything and you can work all the hours in the world, and sometimes it just doesn't connect and it doesn't go.
And it's not
and
money.
That's not the end of the world, but it's
it's not money though. One of our most expensive videos at the time, like Plastic Dreams, or
that was the one that I needed this for. And when the check came, it was only this. In that video, it was the biggest leap of faith. It did nothing.
Or Downtown Love too. At the time, that was by far the most expensive video, and they didn't react how we thought it would. So it's not just always being like, I need the budgets, I need the money to make it happen. Videos that we did for $5,000, $2,000, nothing, had bigger impact. So it's all ideas, and coming up with an idea that's so sticky that, like I said, it grows legs, and people want to share it. People have very short attention spans. You go through Instagram, there's so much stuff. How do you hook people that fast? How do you grab them, pull them in, keep them?
Yeah. Yeah, some of this is just phenomenon, and as much as we try to from especially on the business side of music, put the right pieces together, and you got people setting up sessions with all the right writers and producers in a room, and it's sometimes it shit just don't connect, but sometimes when that lightning strikes, is something to be grateful for, and then, you learn from what worked and why it worked, you know what I mean? But No Limit, I thought it was cool. Me and Rocky, that was a freestyle, and it just happened, and Cardi was not Cardi yet, you know what I mean? I played a radio show with her, and I liked her whole, attitude and everything, and this is even before Bodak, and we, had met, and so we got her that record, she jumped on it, and the timing and the stars aligned, and the next thing you know, it was #1. Yeah. And it was a roller coaster. Yeah.
I'm gonna grab one more, maybe, right here in front.
For sure. It better be good. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, social media is, where the conversation is. It's the vehicle to get your message out. It's where the eyes are. You know what I mean? So it's reaching people there is, that's where people are. And you want to reach people where they're hanging out at. And, it's important. I think a big part of it, though, is having your own unique identity and voice and having it be believable, not contrived or overly marketed or thought out or put together. It's it has to, because it is a voice, you know what I mean? And if you read, if somebody's Twitter is just all I don't really use Twitter like that, but if it's just all promote, you know what I mean? Show this day or da-da-da-da, it's okay, well, that's not really, but at the same time, you have to get that word out, you have to post that, and then your Instagram being this window into your life and, what's interesting about your perspective and what, makes you unique and special, and letting that voice out, I
mean, it's free in a sense that you don't have to pay to have Instagram, but in a sense that you want to produce super compelling content, you have to like put the time in to do either photo, video shoots, whatever, or authentically, like he has to give himself to his social posts to make it worthwhile for people to want to read. So it's not like free in the sense that it doesn't cost anything, because it costs the time and thought and like being authentic to give people something valuable, you know?
All right, well, shall we call it?
For sure.
All right. Well,
Yo, thank you guys so much,
yeah.
for real, man. Thank you.
Thank you, G. Fun. Thank you, Maddie B.